Hi, I'm Li Hao. So recently I created videos about svelte actions, and in one of the examples I created a tooltip using svelte actions. And one of you, Hisham Abdul Majid, hopefully I pronounced the name correctly, proposed to why not create a video about a self-aware tooltip which can change directions when you scroll based on the relative position of that tooltip to the screen. And I believe you can do that using libraries like Popper.js that allows you to pin your tooltip to an element in one direction, and when you scroll, it will flip the direction. So you can do that with libraries out there, but I was thinking, how about let's just do it on ourselves. Let me show you how. Let me walk you through how you could write your own positioning engine. That's what they call in Popper.js, where they call themselves as a tooltip positioning engine. So that's what we're gonna do. And let's head to Code Sandbox. So we are over here at the Code Sandbox, which I created an empty vanilla TypeScript setup. Basically, that's nothing except one HTML page and one TypeScript file. So let's set up things first before we go in. So over here, I am opening up the index.html, which is the entry HTML file, and I'm gonna create some data over here. What I mean is that I'm going to have an element. So I'm gonna say hello world. So this is the elements that I will add tooltip to. So I'm just call it ID base element. And then I'm gonna have my tooltip, which I'm gonna call tooltip. This is a tooltip. And at the same time, I'm gonna create a lot of empty divs, such that I'm gonna say placeholder, right? Such that I can make this div big enough that I can scroll around, so that you can see that my tooltip flips over when it's moving towards the top edge or at the bottom edge, right? So right now I'm just gonna quickly set this up. So I'm gonna say placeholder, and I'm gonna create a lot of these placeholder divs, and I'm gonna create the same amount of it after and before the tooltip, right? This is gonna create some comments over here so that you can see that this is our base element, this is the tooltip, and we have a lot of placeholder here so that we can scroll. And we are going to create something interesting over here, is that I am going to create some scrollable containers, so that it's not just the body that you can scroll. You can, if your element is within a scrollable div, you should so more things to scroll and more things that we can need to consider when we flip our elements around, tooltips around. So I'm gonna call this a scroller. And yeah, I'm gonna copy all this again in over here. Oops, hold on. Okay, copy this, and let's see, copy this. Yeah, again, I'm gonna add some comments so that you can see where my base element is, and I'm gonna do this again so that you know it's fairly deep in over here. Over here, and lastly, I'm gonna create let's see. I'm gonna create a horizontal scrollable div. So I believe what I want to do here is I'm gonna call this. I'm gonna change it to span so that it's a bit inline. And I'm gonna add a lot of spans that is again a placeholder. Right, so we're gonna say placeholder. Just enough to make it scrollable. So I'm gonna save this, and what I'm gonna do here is that probably you can't tell. Okay, so what I'm gonna have over here is this. It's gonna so all scroller is gonna be all the scroller. It's gonna be overflow scroll, and placeholder will have a height of let me see, 50 pixels. And we are going to have the placeholder, and let's say 5N. Gonna have 5 different colors so that you can, it looks nicer with like the placeholder with some color. So this one I'm gonna say light blue. This one gonna be light coral. This gonna be light cyan. This is gonna be light green. And lastly, we're gonna have a light, see what else we have, light pink, like sea green. Okay. Let's see what's not working. Placeholder. Am I not typing this right class? And chow. Let's see what's not working over here. Oh, okay, I just need to save it. What a thing. So I have all my placeholder over here. As you can see now, my scroller, on the other hand, I need to add some border so that you know that it's obvious that that is a scrollable area. And I'm gonna add some padding to it. So I'm gonna say 10 pixel. Okay, so you know that this is, we're inside some scrollable area. And you know that, you see that it's not scrollable because, you know, we didn't add some specific heights to it. So this one gonna have a fixed height of say 400 pixel. So now you can see that this is immediately scrollable. I think 400 is a bit too much because we have zoomed quite in, so I'm gonna say 200. So you can see it here. And inside again, there's something scrollable, which I'm gonna say, okay, I guess that can be 200 and this is 300. So style height, so 200 pixel. This is just that you can see that while I'm scrolling, and on outside, you can still see that I'm scrolling inside. I can decide not to scroll the inside, but yeah, basically that's about it. Then over here is a horizontal thing where, so it's all inline, but it's wrapped over. So what I want over here instead is that I'm gonna add style called white space. No wrap. I think I need a dash. So all are within one line, and so I can horizontally scroll this, and you can see that this is my where's my base element? This is my base element, and somewhere is my tooltip element, right? So it does not matter. So my tooltip will be taken out of flow, and it does not matter where it is written actually. I believe that's most of the tooltip library works. So let's see. Okay, so just to make my base elements stand up, I'm gonna add some border just to make it stand out. So I'm gonna say a border, 4 pixels, red, solid. And I think that's good enough for a setup. Right, so if I scroll, probably wait, border base elements. Right, what's not working? I'll try again. Hey, hold on, border, solid, 4 pixel, red, base element. Do I not spell it correctly? I spell it, oh, okay. Okay, display inline block. Yep, you have your border. Yeah, so here we have a basic setup, and let's go into the code. So we have a base element, which is, let's see, let's query base element document.query selector. And then I'm gonna have a plugin, a pop-up, a tooltip. Sorry. Tooltip. And now we're gonna create a function called initialize tooltip. Initialize, which is where I'm gonna put all this thing in over here. So that if you're gonna make it like a library, this is your library API. And I am going to call this over here now, base element and tooltip. Right, so let's implement this initialize tooltip function. I think I can move it down over here. Okay, this is relevant. Okay, so first thing is, there's a few things that we need to define actually. First is that we need to define a position that we will place our tooltip with respect to the base element, right? So I think right now, because we are using TypeScript, I think we can define it as a enum. We can say a position, and we can have multiple positions. So while I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the Popper.js library. They have like different kind of placement. They have 3x4, 12 kinds of placement, which starts with top starts, top, and top end, right start, right, and right end. And I think this is like a cute way of, this is a good way that we can do, right? So left start is aligning on the left side and aligning the top with the element and the tooltip. Left end is on the left side but aligning the bottom, and this will be aligning the center axis, right? So we can have all this. So we're gonna say top starts, top, and then top end, and bottoms. Okay, I'm gonna copy this. Let's say bottom start, bottom end. Copy this again. Gonna have this is left, and this is right. So now we have our position. Probably we also need to pass that in. So here I'm gonna say position dot let's choose one. I'm gonna say top start. Okay. I believe I need to define this enum ahead before. Okay. So now we have our position. So this is the position. So this is the position enum. This is just one HTML element. HTML element. Right. I'm gonna say this. Oops, sorry. So over here we are going to place our tooltip, which I'm gonna call place tooltip, right? And again, I'm gonna pass all. Whoops, sorry. I'm gonna pass in all these 3 parameters. to this place tooltip function, which I'm gonna define it now. So function place tooltip. Okay, so how do I place a tooltip? First thing, I need to know where is the position of the base element and the tooltip. I can do that using this API called getBoundingClientRect. This will give me all 4 positions in top, left, bottom, and right of that element, as well as the width and height. So I'm gonna call it element rect equals to base elements dot get bounding client rect, and the tooltip rect as well. So rect as in the rectangle, it gives us the 4 plus the top, left, bottom, right position, as well as the width and the height. So tooltip dot get bounding client rect, right? So probably let's see, what is this? This is DOM rect, right? So I'm gonna use this to get the position. So I'm gonna say get position. Get position element rect tooltip rect, and the position, which is like where it's like attaching the tooltip to. We're gonna use coordinates, I'm gonna say, or target position. I'm gonna use this function to get the target position, and then we're gonna apply to the tooltip itself, right? So to the target position, it's gonna be let me define the type of target position, right? So target position, it's gonna be having 2 properties, which one is the X and Y. So yeah, I guess that's pretty self-explanatory, which is the X and Y position of the tooltip. Right, so I'm gonna define this function, get position. So I have the element rectangle, which is a type of dot rect. Let's see, what's this? This is DOM rect. And tooltip rect is also a DOM rect. And then lastly is the position, which is the position enum. So depending on where the tooltip is, we will have all kinds of different kinds of position, right? So so let's do a switch case. And let's decide, let's see, I think let's define the X and Y first. Okay, switch case of the position. So let's have the case for all of them. Let's copy all this and paste it in. I'm gonna add case. Okay, let's think. So let's start with X position first. Right, so if I'm placing at the left side, it does not matter whether I am, I think I need to position dot over here. Okay, sorry for that disruption. Okay, let's continue. So if I am on the left side and I'm thinking about the X position, it does not matter about whether I'm on the left start, left, or left end. I am always at my X and Y. X position is always a fixed one, right? It depending on the X position of the base element and the width of my tooltip, right? So imagining this is your tooltip, and then this is like the base element. So it's gonna be the X, so we're gonna define X and Y, right? So what is X and Y? So X and Y, right now I'm gonna define it as the top left corner of the tooltip. This, and yeah, because it's easier for us if we just want to position it fixed somewhere, we can set the top or left of that element, or transform X and Y, it always based on the top left corner of the tooltip. Right, so if it's a left corner of the tooltip, that means that it's gonna be a width of the tooltip left to the left position of the base element, right? So X is gonna be base element rect dot left minus tooltip dot width. Tooltip rect dot width. And then if we're gonna look at the right, it's gonna be like this is the base element, and this is my tooltip. So the tooltip left edge is gonna be equal to the right of the element rect. Right, so X equals element rect dot right break. Okay, and let's look at if I'm top or bottom. So if I'm top and bottom, it really depends on where my position, whether it's start, normal or end, right? Because as you can see here, the left position is, the X position is moved whether you are top start, top, or top end. But bottom start and top start will have the same X position. Right, bottom and top has the same X position, and bottom end and the top end has the same X position. So we are going to shift this around. Gonna come here and gonna space it out a bit. So this one, my X position will be exactly the same as the tooltip. The tooltip X position will exactly the same as the left edge of the base element. So X is gonna be equal, let me close this. X is gonna be equals to the element rect dot left. And if it's on the right end of things, then actually if you look at this picture, I think this picture is really useful for us to imagine this. Then your position of the left of the tooltip is actually on the right edge of your base element minus the width of your tooltip, right? So X equals to element rect dot right minus element tooltip rect dot width. Okay, and now let's look at the center align. Right, center align would be I'm gonna find the center location first, which is the left of the element plus the width minus 2 of that base element. This will give us the center position, right? But then where is the left edge of your tooltip? Then it will be from the center line minus of the width, half of the width of the tooltip, right? So that will be X equals element rect dot left plus element rect dot width divided 2 minus tooltip rect dot width divided by 2 break. So now we have X position. Let's figure out the Y position. Let's clone this over here and let's figure out the Y. So I'm gonna do a quick search and replace. This is gonna be all Y, right? And okay, so I think it's flipped over, where right now if you look at the Y position, it does not matter whether it's top or bottom. So I think it's pretty similar to this case where it's the top over here and the bottom over here. And then this is where I'm gonna say left or right. Okay, so let's take a look. If it's on the top side, it will be like this, where it's on top. So the Y position is as the top left position of it, then it's actually the top position of your base element plus the heights of minus the height of the tooltip, right? So it's a top minus the height. And if you look at if it's at the bottom edge, then it's equals to the bottom edge. The top position of your tooltip is actually equals to the bottom of your element, right? And now let's take a look at if it's left or right start, right? If it's this case or this case, then the top of your tooltip is actually the same as the top of the base element. So I'm gonna say it's top. And if it's center, it's gonna be the top from the top of the base plus half of the height minus half of the height of the tooltip. Height. And if you can see here, there's a pattern over here where I'm just gonna replace width to height and so on and so forth, right? So this is at the bottom right end or left end. Then the bottom is aligned, so gonna be bottom of the base element minus of the height of the tooltip. So bottom minus the height. So now we have x and y. Gonna return that. Gonna say this is returning a target position. So we're gonna return. Sorry. Oops. Return x and y. So now we have our target position. We are going to set it to the tooltip element. So how do we place this tooltip element based on this x and y position? There's a few ways, but I find that this is the easiest of all, which is we can set the tooltip to be positioned fixed on the position fixed, and then we set the left and top to be the 0 so that it's fixed on top of on the screen, right? So by that we can know that because bounding client rank give us the x and y, the top, left, right, bottom position of this element relative to the viewport, right? And now we fix it on the top and left of this tooltip to be at the 0 position. Then we can set like transform to move this tooltip around x and y, right? So you can either use transform, which is a CSS transform property that relies on which we will, if you change a transform property, then it will use GPU. What that means is that when we transform something, we are not going to relay out that element. We are going to it will only happen in a composition where we will repaint. We will only trigger a repaint, not a relay out, right? So yeah, but alternatively, if you don't want to do that, then you can set the top and left based on the x and y position that we just calculated, right? But I'm gonna do the position fix top left equals 0, and then use a transform to move my tooltip around. So what I'm gonna do here is that style tooltip.style equals dot position equals to fixed tooltip.style.top equals to 0. Bottom equals to 0. And here, when I place my tooltip, I'm gonna say place tooltip. Yeah, I'm gonna say tooltip dot style dot transform equals to translate x and y, and we're gonna be px. Okay, I don't have x and y, so I'm gonna say target position x and target position y. Save it. Yep. And if you scroll to find our hello world, you can't find our tooltip. Our tooltip is nowhere to be found. That's because when we start at the initial position, our base element is somewhere right below the screen, and we place our tooltip right over there, and you can't see it because we didn't update we didn't call this place tooltip again to update the position. So how do you know, so now we need to know when to call this place tooltip again, right? When are we going to call that? We'll call it when we are scrolling, whether we scroll the body, we scroll the inner divs, and inner divs. So any of these divs, when you scroll, it will affect the position of our elements, and we need to move our tooltip again. So now we have two things that we need to solve. Right? First is we need to find out what are the elements that we need to, which are scrollable, and we need to listen to them. And then we need to call this place tooltip function every time that happens. Right, so let's take a look. Over here, we are going to find, okay, so we're gonna say scrollable parent equals to get scrollable parent. So we're gonna get all the scrollable parents from the base elements. Parents, I'm gonna say plural because it could be more than just one parent. I'm gonna define this over here. Collapse this. Okay. Scrollable parents. So how do we find a scrollable parents? Well, one thing we can do is we can recursively look at our parent elements. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna have parents equals to element dot parent element, and while parent is not undefined or something, then we can keep finding parents equals to parents dot parent element. So this is like a loop to keep looking at your parent element, right? So for each of the parents, we need to determine whether it is scrollable, and we can do that by checking whether it has overflow being set. Right, overflow, if you set it to auto, maybe to scroll, to overlay, any of this, you will make this element, this div parents to be scrollable. So we're gonna check that. So we can use this API called get computed style. I'm gonna say get computed style equals to get computed style. And I'm gonna say parent. Right, so we're gonna check if computed style dot overflow has is one of this value, right? I'm gonna say I'm gonna define a function again. It's called is scrollable. Is overflow set, right? So we're gonna overflow value. So we're gonna test whether, so it can be undefined if it's not set, or it can be like an initial value or something, right? So we're gonna check whether overflow is actually like auto, hidden, scroll, or overlay that makes it scrollable. So I'm gonna say if overflow value equals to auto, or overflow value equals to hidden, overflow value equals to scroll, or overflow value equals to overlay. Right? And if it's true, we're going to return true. So I'm going to say return . So it's going to be either of this, right? So if you're not sure and never seen all this, let's look at MDN, overflow property. CSS style sheets. So overflow can have visible, hidden, scroll, auto, and stuff, right? So if it's so probably we have to look at whether any of this is the box is, yeah, so if it's clip, it's not a scroll container. It does not allows you to scroll. If it's scroll, yeah, so overlay behaves like an auto, and yeah, basically you have all this different kind of overflow properties, and not all of them makes you like a scrollable container. So you probably have to see which one makes it like a scrollable container. Yeah, so overlay is like auto, where it's like automatically scrollable if it's exceeds a certain, if your child elements exceeds like your parent size. And the difference between overlay and auto is that the overlay will draw your scroll bar on top of it. It will not add some paddings because of the scroll bar, right? But it's kind of not recommended, I guess. But it's like a deprecated API. But we're gonna test it anyway, just for you all to know. So we're gonna say it's overflow set. I'm gonna call this is overflow set. Is overflow sets for this overflow value, and you can actually call overflow X or overflow Y. So we're gonna check those as well. So we're gonna say is overflow sets for X and Y. If so, then this element, this parent is a scrollable parent. I'm gonna have like say results a scrollable parents. It's an empty array. I'm gonna return this in the end, and over here I'm gonna just push this in parent, right? And we also need to remember to also put in body, because body is also scrollable, which we want. Like it's not a document, right? The document is not a parent element, but we still need to make to listen to it. So scrollable parents, scrollable parents dot push document. So we have our scrollable parents. Gonna come over here, over here, and for each of the scrollable parent of scrollable parents, gonna add events listener scroll. Sorry, not documents, but the scrollable parents. I'm gonna call this place tooltip over here. And if you know about scroll event listener, there is this options that you probably will have to pass in, which is passive is true. What this means is that if in each of the event listeners, you probably can you can call events dot prevent default to prevent the default behavior of that of your events that you are happening, right? If you click, you can uncheck or check the checkbox, but you can prevent defaults, then it will not check or uncheck a checkbox, right? If you have scroll and you prevent defaults, then you're just telling a browser, hey, if it feels like a scroll, but don't scroll, right? So browser will have to know whether your callback, browser does not know whether your callback, like event listener callback function, does that, like prevents event default, right? So it will basically have to wait till your event callback to be finished executed, only to know, oh, there's nothing, it's not prevent default, then I can actually paint my scrollable div to be scroll up a bit based on your finger flick, right? But then if this takes very long time to compute, then it will jank, right? For every time when you scroll, it will run through this code and check, oh, okay, I need to scroll, right? So if you do passive, it goes through, you're telling the browser that, hey, don't worry, I'm not gonna say events or prevent default. You can just do everything what you like, right? I won't prevent defaults to your event. So that's why this is important. And you call place tooltip to place your tooltip. So now let's try and see how it affects. So So now our tooltip, let's see, where is... Whoops, I don't think we see our tooltips anywhere. Let's... Okay, place tooltip. Probably we need to find our tooltip. So let's inspect. Let's open our news window so that it's easier to look at. Oh, okay, so tooltip is over here. It's definitely following our... It's definitely working when we scroll, it does follows. But it is not... it's not placed at the right kind of position. Right? It's like a bit too far off. Let's see what we might have done wrong over here. So we get, okay, so this is done. Get the position. Okay, so X is based on the left, right. Y is based on the top, bottom of the element rectangle. When we call place tooltip, get bounding client rect, and then we call it element rect, tooltip rect. Right. Let's see. Okay, let's just console out and take a look at what is the element rect and the tooltip rect used to calculate this, right? So let's refresh this. F12. And take a look at what we have in the console. Okay, so X width and the top and the height. Okay, so the tooltip. So this is the tooltip height and position. This is the DOM. This is the base element height and position, which looks normal, but this is the tooltip's height, which does not look normal. The height is 978, which is a bit tall, I would say. Not quite sure why, but let's just come over here and, you know, set the record straight where tooltip is of certain height. 200 pixel, width of 150 pixel. Save it, and let's refresh. Let's take a look. Okay, it looks promising. Except that this is, oh, okay. I think it's of the right height. Okay, let's also set back. We need to also make this tooltip kind of like prominent and visible. So I'm gonna say background is white, border is 4 pixel, black solid. I'm gonna say blue solid. Save it, refresh, come over here, close this. Okay, so now, okay, it's correct, right? Except like, okay, yeah, it's off a bit on the left, and I believe that's because of your box sizing. Right, I'm gonna say box sizing, border box. Let's say this as well. Save it. Refresh. I think I know why as well. We're gonna reset some margin and the padding of the body. Go save. And come over here. We have a big screen, so if we collapse this, so that you know that you can scroll past. Yeah, it looks nice-ish. So let's see. I think okay. So what I'm gonna do here is just to make our tooltips slightly small, so that it fits in a normal case where it fits within this horizontal scrollable area, right? So what I'm gonna set is the height probably to 50, and then the horizontal scrollable I'm gonna set taller a bit so that it's like the 300. This is 500, and over here I'm gonna have a, this is the horizontal one, which is the height to be 200 pixel. So what I end up is something like this. A lot more space for me to scroll around, to move around here and there. Right, so let's see. So the first thing is we're gonna look at how we can avoid. So when I scroll this up, what you want to expect is that, let me zoom in a bit. When I scroll this up, what you want to expect is that this tooltip will flip down, right? Or if I flip down, I do this, it should flip up, and so on and so forth. And so what we're going to do now is that we need to know what is the so-called an opposite position of what your current position is. So okay, let me remove this comment. We don't need it anymore. And let's come here and define this get opposite position. So it'll be based on the position, right? So that we know what is the opposite position. And I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna copy all these enums and we're gonna make all a case again. I'm gonna switch based on the position. Case position. Okay, so I'm gonna quick edit over here. Position dot top start. Okay. I'm gonna replace all this as a colon. Okay, and then let's figure out what is the opposite position, right? So if it's a top start, if you look at here, if it's a top start, what is most likely your opposite position is gonna be your bottom start, right? Right? This is most likely, it's the opposite position of bottom start, right? So we're gonna write that in. Return position bottom start, which means that this opposite of top start is bottom, then the opposite of bottom is also top, right? Gonna copy this, gonna say this over here, bottom start. A top start, sorry. And the opposite of top, as you can see here, is bottom, and the opposite of bottom is top. So I'm gonna come here and do the same thing again. It's top. And sooner or later, you'll notice that the opposite of top end is the bottom end. And opposite of bottom end is actually top end. And you kind of notice this pattern of, you're gonna return top, opposite is bottom, bottom is top. You remain the starts or normal or end, right? So gonna quickly do this over for the left and right. So we're gonna say return this, and for each of the return position left, gonna replace it with right, and each of the position right, I'm gonna return as left. Okay, so I got an opposite position. So let's see. we need to determine when we are going to flip to the opposite position, right? So okay, let's come over here, get positions, collapse it. Okay, get opposite. So when we place our tooltip, we have our target position, right? And then based on this target position, we also need to know whether it is something that we need to flip it. So what do I mean? When do we know when we should fit it? Then we actually have to look at each of the scroll container, right? In this case, so hold on, I noticed something, right? So when I refresh, the tooltip is not at the right position, and only it jumps when I start scrolling. That's because I need to call this place tooltip once also at the initialization. So I'm gonna collapse this and come here, right? And now it's placed correctly, right? So let's come back over here and I say, how do I know whether I should flip my tooltip? Is when I notice that it has to be compared with each of the scroll container, right? So over here, I'm scrolling the outer one and I need to flip, but also at the same time, if I'm scrolling this container, I also need to flip, or I'm scrolling the parent, I also need to look at this container and determine whether I need to flip, right? So what we can do is we're going to loop through the scrollable parents and determine one by one each of the scrollable parents, determine whether we need to flip it based on that parent. So as you can see, we need to kind of pass this into the place tooltip. I think at this point we can collapse this because we have been looking at this tab for quite a while. So we're going to pass in the scrollable parents. Over here, it will be an HTML elements, an array of it. Whoops. Okay, so now we need to determine. Okay, so I think we need to also call it over here as scrollable parent. Okay, so I need to look at each of the scrollable parents. Scrollable parent. And for each of them, what we need to know also is their bounding client rect, right? We need to know the boundary, and then we compare the boundary with the tooltip position, and we determine whether we need to flip or not. So I'm gonna get boundary rect equals to scrollable parent dot get bounding client rect, and immediately you can see that I have an error. Scrollable parent get bounding client rect is not a function, and that is because we have a document as a scrollable parent as well, and the document does not have this bounding client rect API. It's only defined in a HTML element. So what we're going to do here is that we are going to check if this. We're going to quickly check like if this is a document. Then we're going to do something over here, and we're going to get a document bounding rect, and let's define this. And hold on, and we can, okay, so we're gonna fix that we are going to return rect. So we're gonna return an object that has top, left, right, bottom, width, and height. This is all that we are going to use. So let's determine, so the top and left, it's going to be 0. because we're gonna start in top left 0, 0. And over here, right bottom width and height will depend on the client width of the document. So let's say width equals to document body.client width. So this is the viewport kind of the document, the height and the width. As opposed to probably you might heard of scroll height and width. That will be the actual entire height and width of the document. I'm gonna copy here. The right will be equal to the width, and the width is also equal to width. Height, the bottom is equal to width. The height is equal to height. Okay, save this. Yeah, we don't see an error anymore. Let's come back over here. Boundary rect. Okay. Once we get our boundary, I'm gonna check if let's see, what should I call this? I'm gonna call it like should flip. So whether I should flip or not, and it depends on a few things. First thing is the target position. Next is the, let's see, the position. The position of the tooltip. And then the boundary rect, as well as the tooltip rect. So we need to know the boundary, we need to know the tooltip rect, because sometimes if we are on the left or the right, it depends on the width of the tooltip as well to know whether we hit the right boundary. So position over here is, if we should flip, then we're gonna say position is going to be a flipped position. So position will change equals to get opposite position. Alright. So I think we don't want to change this. Should we change this? Okay, it's okay. We can pass it in as a function. We can change this. So we just swap our position anytime when we decided we should flip. And we need to define this should flip function. Gonna come here, over here, down, down, down. I'm gonna say should flip. Right. So let's copy all this. Should flip, sorry, over here. Okay. Target position is based on the target position. Position is the position. Boundary rect is the it's a DOM rect. This is a DOM rect as well. Okay, let's implement this. So let's do a switch case of depending on the position so that we know what we just need to check, right? So if we are at a top, then we just only check like whether it's hitting a top, right? We don't check whether hitting on the left or the right. Yeah, we don't, because we don't flip to the left or the right, right? We just flip over on the opposite end. So we're gonna come over here, get opposite. We're gonna copy this over because we need all the cases to do a switch. So instead over here, what we need to do is, if it's at the top, it does not matter whether I'm at the top or top end. I'm gonna check on the position, Y position. I'm gonna check whether it's above it's above like the boundary rect, right? So it's whether it's less than the boundary rect dot top, right? And if we are at bottom, does not matter whether bottom start, bottom or bottom end, we are going to check whether the target position dot y plus the tooltip rect dot height, because you need to make sure the bottom edge of it does not exceed the bottom edge, right? So if it should flip, is the case when it's greater than the boundary rect's bottom, it's past the bottom of it. Alright, so if it's left starts left or left end, it does not matter. As long as it's on the left side, we need to check whether the target position dot x is less than boundary rect dot left. And if it's right start, right or right end, we need to check whether the target position dot x plus the tooltip width is not exceeds the boundary rect dot right. Alright, okay, so let's see. So we determine the position after we flip, right? We determine position. What we're gonna do here is that we also need to update the target position. So we're gonna target position equals to get position element rect tooltip rect and the position, right? And let's see. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, so now you start to see that it started flipping. So if I come here, it should flip up. Okay, I think it's because of this edge is always showing on the downside. But if we come, okay, you see, it flips up, it flips down, right? If we don't scroll this div, we scroll the outer one. Come here, it will flips up as again, right? Which is what we want. It's a pity that you don't see it flipping, defaulting at up position, so that then we can't see that it's flipping down. So I'm gonna say hello. This one I'm gonna add some padding to have some extra space. Come here, this one, the horizontal one, gonna add some padding, goes to 780 pixel. Refresh. Okay, let's see. Now my tooltip is always on the top, but if I come here, it will flip down, flip up, flip down. Okay, and if I scroll the parent, it will flip down. I scroll the body, it will flip down, right? So this does not. Oh, it's already up, so it does not flip down. So it's down, and then if I scroll this parent over here, it flips up, and then if I scroll it here on the document, I have no place to scroll now. Yeah, so you can see that it's avoiding, but once it's passed, we can't do much about. We can't flip much about it, right? Kind of. So there's one more thing that we can add to position this, which is, let's see, which is if we, let's see, this is a fairly wide screen, but if we scroll this, we probably want to see that the tooltip will stick at the right edge until like hello world is gone, right? So what we can do is we can get the boundary of each of the scrolling container, and as we scroll, we want to clamp the X and Y position of the tooltip based on the boundary of the scroll container. So here, come back over here, we have done the avoiding edges. It's called a flip to avoid edges. Now the next thing we want to do is we're gonna do the clamp position within the boundary. So over here, what we can do here now is that we need to check. So we're gonna do the same thing again. We're gonna get for each of the parents, we're gonna get the boundary, and then we need to update the position, the target position, the X and Y will be based on the boundary rect, right? So this one will be whatever is maximum of the boundary rect dot left or the target position dot X. So this is a way to say that the X position should always be more than or at most the left position, right? Which means that it should always be at, so the x, if it's greater than left, then it will get the x, which means if the position is on the right of the left boundary, it should be that position, the right position. But if it's less than that, which is on the left of the left border, then it should be just clamped at the left border position, right? Yeah, and we need to do this min for the right of the boundary. So it depends on the target, the right minus the tooltip rect dot width. So it depends on the width, the right. You clamp based on the right boundary minus the width so that you don't go off that. And we're going to do this the same thing for target position Y as well. So, come over here, replace this to Y, replace this with Y, and then this should be the top, and then this should be the bottom minus the height. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we have achieved. So if you take a look over here, it's like once it's there, it's froze there, right? It's a clamp over there. And if I don't scroll this, if I scroll like the, let's see a parent, scroll some parent over here. Let's see, okay, this parent. I'm gonna scroll, it will freeze here, right? And if I scroll document, it will clamp at that edge as well. So if I scroll left and right, okay, so let me resize. It's gonna left and right, it will stuck there, right? It will stuck at this edge. It will do a flipping, and then if it's still, and then if you're still gonna go through, it will kind of stuck at the boundary, right? Stuck at the boundary. So last thing we want to do is that if this element is gonna hidden over the view, probably want to just hide the tooltip, right? So over here you can still see the tooltip, but I'm gonna hide it after it's gone. So if I say, for example, in this case, I'm gonna show tooltip clamp height. I'm gonna hidden, right? So we need to figure out whether the element is still within any scrollable parent view. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna have a function called is within, and gonna have a tool element rect, which is a DOM rect, and then a boundary rect, which is another DOM rect. And we can check. So when you say it's within, is that when it is the top. Okay, so it's still within is that if you scroll up, your bottom position of your element is still within, which is still greater than your boundary top, right? So that you haven't, your whole bottom is not hidden above like the boundary top. And if you look at the right edge of things, you would want to say that your rightmost edge is still above or greater than the right, so it's still at the right side of the boundary's left boundary, right? Dot right. And if you look at the bottom boundary, then it should be still below your topmost boundary of your element. So it's greater than element rect dot top. And lastly is if you look at the right edge, it should still at the right side of your leftmost edge of your element. Right, so I'm gonna say is within. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna do a similar thing again, but let's have a flag called should height equals to false. Should height equals to false. And let's see, should height equals to false. Yeah, correct. I'm gonna find each of the scrollable parents. Right. And if I say if is within bound element rect and a boundary rect. Okay, so if it's not, actually if it's not within, then I'm gonna should height is equals to true, and I'm gonna break this loop so that we don't have to compare one by one of the parents. So as long as it's not within any of the one of the parent, then it should be hidden. So over here, we're gonna should height. We're gonna say tooltip dot let's say if should height, and tooltip dot style dot display. It's gonna be called hidden. But since once we set it, we need to unset it as well. So I'm gonna say that the default would be display block, right? So now what I'm gonna do here is that if it's should hidden, it should be hidden, or else it will be this block. Right? So a better way is to actually figure out what is the display type, display property of the tooltip, the initial one, and then you set it as initial, right? You can use the get computer styles to get the first initial display value of this tooltip and then set this as the initial display property. But here I'm just gonna be lazy. You can do it, I believe you, but I'm gonna be lazy and set it as block. So over here, let's see, have I saved? Okay, I have saved. So refresh. So wait, let's see. It's not. Is it hidden? It's not hidden. Let's see whether something is wrong over here. It's within the boundary. It's within the boundary. Top left, bottom right is element right, bottom right, top left. I think it's correct. It's not within. Display none. Oh, sorry. It should be display none. It's not display hidden. Yeah, my bad. I was thinking. I'm not sure what I'm thinking about. Let's refresh. Okay, so now you don't see any tooltip. And as I scroll, hidden is gone, and I scroll up, you can see it. If I have over here, if I come here, it's clamp, hidden. Come back. Yeah. All right. Yep. That's like it. So you have ways. So now you have seen how we can avoid the edge by flipping it, and then we can clamp it so that it's like not going over the boundaries, right? And we have seen ways that you can hide your tooltip if it's too much from the edge, right? If the whole element is hidden from the view, right? If you find that you hide it too fast, then you can add some offsets over here, right? For example, boundary topped, you can add say something like add some boundary across, like so. If it's like maybe like give it allowance of like 40 over here, 40. So this is like adding some paddings or margins, you would say, across the boundary. So it's like adding like extra size 40 on each of the sides so that it's not hidden immediately. So refresh. So if I come over here, if you take a look at your tooltip, if I scroll up, it's not immediately gone, and it's gone, right? 40 pixels allowance, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can play around with it. You can add some offset between the element and the tooltip. But this is like the basics of positioning your tooltip using vanilla JavaScript, right? So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Tell me that what you have learned. Comment down below. If you have anything unsure or anything that have made mistakes, comment down below as well. And last but not the least, please subscribe to my channel. I will have more contents coming up as well. Let me know if you have anything that you would like to see me doing, and comment down below as well. So I will do it in the next video, right? See you. Bye bye.